there's more dress code violations happening. And a bit later, we're going to introduce you to a girl who violated dress code for a week and posted on YouTube. But now there are new developments tonight in the shooting over at Oakland, Michigan, where weeks after the shooting there has been a number of threats. Now, in case you didn't know, weeks ago we told you about Carroll High School, among those threats, who decided to say, you know what, we gotta step up security. After that, I think it seemed to work. How does it feel for other schools? Well, just today, a lot of schools are on high alert over vague TikTok threats. Which this leads to the question, are we doing good enough? Are we making sure that we keep these threats? And our schools taking threats very seriously? Here's the latest from CBS, from the CBS Evening News. And
well, school districts across the country were on alert today, some even canceling classes in response to vague threats of violence posted on social media. As CBS's Jeff Begays reports, police tracked down some of the threats and were quick to make arrests.
In South Florida today, 3 students, ages 13 to 15, arrested for allegedly making violent threats on social media.
If you think you're going to post a threat, fake or real, I can promise you, you're not only going to get out of school, because you will, but you're going to jail.
In Connecticut, a 13-year-old was arrested after sharing a post warning of what he might do. There was an increased police presence at schools nationwide after a vague, unverified TikTok challenge went viral, encouraging students to call in threats.
There were just a bunch of threats, like all over the place.
Law enforcement does not believe the threats are credible. Still, at least 176 schools across 18 states closed out of an abundance of caution.
America's education system is under attack right now. We are under attack by a social media platform that will not intervene when it is necessary.
TikTok said it searched the platform but didn't find any threats, just this rumor of violence and warnings to be careful.
There is a threat. Stay safe, everyone.
The school closures and arrests come almost 3 weeks after 4 students were killed at a Michigan high school where warning signs from the shooter were overlooked. Experts say any social media threat should be taken seriously. You have to act like it's credible.
Every threat is real until we disprove it.
Late today, at least 7 students arrested in Texas in connection with alleged threats to schools. In Salt Lake City, police say they arrested a student who brought a gun and bullets to a high school. Nora.
It's a lot of arrests. Jeff Begays, thank you.
And speaking of Texas, like just today, threats against school in North Texas, 14 total arrests have made so far, but the police were able to determine the majority of these alleged threats, but were not quotable. In Dallas, 14 students in North Texas have been arrested, including 10 who were arrested. That's 24 kids total. After a flurry of alleged threats prompted panic and school closures this week. Some of those students, some of whom are just in middle school, now face felony charges as a result. That's came across North Texas. Here's what we know. Here is the timeline as far as we can tell you. Arlington police arrested a middle school student on Tuesday, charged him with making a terroristic threat. The police determined it was a legitimate threat and he didn't intend to act on the threat. Did not lead to any school closures. In Frisco, today, the police announced 7 students were arrested in connection to threats made against the school district, including Lone Star High School. Some of them are just middle school students who are learning a painful lesson at too young of an age. Louisville, on Monday, a juvenile was arrested in connection with a hoax threat sent to Marcus High School in Louisville ISD. Flower Mound police arrested a student who was accused of making a hoax threat against San Marcos High School and was sent to the district on December 9th. Some of them was made against Flower Mound High School, and police say no additional charges can be pending. No credible threat was found regarding the school, the police said. Then on Friday, the police arrested another 3 students in connection with the same threats. Students charged with 4 counts of misdemeanor respect for allegedly creating and spreading a threat on Snapchat, police said. The other 2 are charged with 1 count of felony respect because they knew the threats were false, but continued to spread them using the Snapchat app. As for Walkwell, high school students arrested on Friday for making a terroristic threat of 3rd degree. The warning to parents. Several law enforcement agencies are urging parents to check their kids' social media accounts and are warning of consequences if students create hoax threats. The FBI at Dallas offices also assist local law enforcement in these cases. But David Bodwich, the FBI deputy director, says his office doesn't want a sneaking young person to start out adult with a felony record on his impulsive social media post. It's no joke. You need to think before you post. This is no joke. And throughout this half hour, we're dealing with these threats in our schools. This is the real deal. So parents and kids, I need your undivided attention throughout this half hour on the special cut me a break we're calling Threats in Our Schools. What can be done? Because the education system is a social media hoax with all these threats. We need to approach 2020, 2022 with a safe education for our students. We've had COVID, we've had a lot of things happening, but threats like this just keep happening and nothing is being done. We have to do something. Still ahead, the latest on the Oakland shooting from a Columbine survivor who has a strong message. And more latest from COVID and more Oxford when we come back. Now, earlier we looked at these school threats happening because of TikTok, because of these school closures. But there are others in this state, like in Georgia. Here's the latest from 11 Alive. Again, I take threats like this very seriously. Parents, you need to monitor what your kids post. My mom monitors me when I post on my social media, and again, you need to do the same. Because about weeks ago, we talked about cyber safety, what you need to do to protect your kids. And the biggest one of all, you need to friend your kids on your child's social media so that then you can watch them. So, let's take a look.
What is top of mind for you out there? A disturbing trend on social media is forcing hundreds of students in the metro area to spend the last day before winter break at home. Others dealing with increased security at school, all because of threatening posts on social media. Some districts say it is a problem they're seeing all across the country. Karis Belder joining us now in studio. Karis, so school officials, they're not playing any games with this one. We are coming off of the deadly shooting in Michigan last week at a school, and more recently, we got some arrests here locally over these school threats, all going down on social media.
That's right. We're already seeing some consequences. In fact, a Newton County teenager was arrested for allegedly making threats against Eastside High School. That teen is now facing 2 felonies, disrupting public school and making terroristic threats. The TikTok challenge encourages students to make threats against their school, and it's supposed to happen today. We've now heard from 2 districts who are making changes as a result of these threats, APS and Polk County. APS sent a letter to parents saying the threat was shared widely throughout the district, but it did not originate in Metro Atlanta. Also, students may see additional security today in class, and Polk County announced school would be canceled today out of an abundance of caution. A post on the district Facebook page says they turned the information over to law enforcement, and students who were scheduled to take exams today will not have to make those up. And in fact, that APS letter also said this is a good example of why it's important to avoid sharing posts online that refer to school safety threats, because even if they are not credible, they can cause stress and anxiety for students, for teachers, and for staff.
And even if they're not credible, we still have to take this serious because,
Yes.
you know, we have these things happening,
Yes.
unfortunately, so often, Kara. So we are proud of the districts who are taking this strong response. And hopefully this will start to phase out these social media challenges. You can face charges. Don't do it. Thank you, Karis.
Don't freaking do this. You're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble. If you have TikTok and you're doing this challenge, stop. Think. Stop and think. Like, oh my goodness, if I do this, I'm going to go to jail. Yes, you could go to jail and be charged for making a terroristic threat. Which leads us to Detroit. So here's the latest from Channel 7 from Detroit.
Limited DVR, you can stream classics like The Office whenever you'd like. YouTube TV. A developing story and growing concerns about school threats being made on TikTok.
Yeah, it's been happening almost daily here in Metro Detroit in the wake of the Oxford High School school shooting tragedy. And now, the disturbing trend is hitting communities across the nation. Unconfirmed threats on TikTok have school districts from coast to coast canceling classes and beefing up security today.
As of now, no local school districts have canceled classes today as a result of these social media threats, but law enforcement is on alert.
7 Action News reporter Peter Maxwell is joining us live right outside of the State Police Post in Oak Park with the response from law enforcement overnight about all of this. It really has been taxing their resources as well. Peter?
Michigan State Police and the Monroe County Sheriff's responding overnight saying that there is no credible threat with these online threats. Now, law enforcement and prosecutors have made it very clear to students, you make a threat, you're going to jail, and you will be charged, and these charges can have long-term impacts. Michigan law enforcement on high alert after a social media threat against schools nationwide, declaring Friday as, quote, American School Shooting Day. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard says they've had 135 threats against different school districts in Oakland County, and he has made it clear that they will investigate 100% of the threats and then
determine first if it's credible, and then we intervene if it is. If it's not credible, we still continue the investigation and seek criminal prosecution because the mere threat is a crime. It's up to a 20-year crime in our state.
The post on TikTok was vague and anonymous, warning multiple schools would receive shooting and bomb threats. TikTok releasing a statement via Twitter reading, quote, we handle even rumored threats with utmost seriousness, which is why we're working with law enforcement to look into warnings about potential violence at schools, even though we have not found evidence of such threats originating or spreading via TikTok. Jennifer Seibel is the director of GrowthWorks, a care management organization, and works in the juvenile offenders programs at home or in the residential facilities that they're eventually placed in, and says the impact that these cases and convictions have could last months, even years.
It's not uncommon for kids to be surprised that they're missing out on normal teenage activities because of an event that maybe happened 6 months ago, a year ago.
And once again, the Michigan State Police say that there is no credible threat with these online threats that are circulating via the app TikTok. Again, no credible threats that they have found. Reporting in Oak Park this morning, I'm Peter Maxwell, 7 Action News.
So this is good news from Michigan. When we come back, you're going to meet a survivor of Columbine who delivered a message in hope of the Oxford shooting. Then later, you're going to meet a woman who violated a dress code for about a week. A week. She posted on YouTube. What happened next? We'll shock everyone when we come back. Also, I should point out that parents, you need to make sure you stress this out. Parents, you need to monitor what your children post on social media and warn them about the consequences of what can happen whenever you're making these threats. It's a real deal. So real, and in fact, their school will be shut down. Even if it means you saying this and that, the other, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, blah, blah. And yet people, your child could be arrested, and you're going to have to go up to the school and say this and that and the other. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye on your child's social media so you know what they post, and just talk with your kids about what they can post and what cannot post, so that something else can happen. Now we're gonna take you to Columbine, where years ago there was a survivor there. His name His name is Craig Scott, whose sister Rachel died in a Columbine High School shooting. He was the one visiting with students to help them heal after the shooting. How did he heal? Help them heal? Well, here's the latest from Fox 2 Detroit.
In town squares and in churches, in prayer and in song, candles burn, a community mourns, and someone who knows firsthand what they're going through comes to Oxford with a message of healing.
It was a really special night in the community in Oxford where I just wanted to actually go in as a beacon of joy. I wanted to go in and show, hey, you could be in a whole healed place one day.
Craig Scott visited with students on Monday. He knows the pain, the anxiety, the fear. He survived the mass shooting at Columbine in 1999. His sister Rachel did not. She was the first person shot among the 13 people murdered. He now travels the country speaking to students. He came to Oxford to listen and share.
I had 2 friends that were killed next to me in a room where 10 students were killed and over 20 were wounded, and then lost my sister. What would I say to myself? And so that's what I went in there with.
What would he say to his 16-year-old self, his message for students?
Be aware of what you're feeling and talk about it.
Really talk about it. Know sharing is strength, not a weakness. And for parents, let your kids know you're listening.
I also talked to the parents about, hey, don't pressure the kids to share. Just let them know that you're there, and do take a time to initiate and talk with them, talk with the kids about this event.
Scott says the same goes for teachers and administrators when kids get back to class.
Set academics and set knowledge and academic achievement aside for a little bit. It's a time to connect with their hearts. Open up. Be real with them about how it affected you and say, and I'm here if anybody wants to talk with me.
And for the larger community, Scott says support Oxford in the weeks and months to come.
If you know of a victim's family or someone that's been shot, or you have a friend that goes there and they're having a hard time, that's the time to make them a meal and bring it over. That's the time to invite them to something special or do something kind for them or write them a letter of encouragement.
Scott encouraging the students to not live in fear, even though all of the threats in the aftermath can be scary.
I understand that we have to treat threats seriously, but at the same time, I really actually try to tell parents, teachers, and students not to be afraid.
Instead, Scott says, let this bring everyone together. Put differences aside in honor of Madison and Tate and Hannah and Justin. Do what his sister Rachel would have done.
My sister, 1 month before the shooting happened at Columbine, she challenged the young generation to step out in compassion, to start a chain reaction of kindness. There's been a challenge to do school violence. Well, I give a challenge to do acts of kindness. When you focus on kindness and compassion, it automatically gets rid of an atmosphere of disconnection, isolation, bullying, all those kind of negative things. So focus on the right things and automatically negate the wrong things.
In Southfield, Amy Lang, Fox 2 News.
And now, since this shooting, parents are on edge because law enforcement continues to see posting, especially on TikTok. And there are new security measures. And so how is school beefing up security? Well, if you remember, an Inside Edition report talked about like no lockers, no like clear backpacks. I think the clear backpacks, this is going back to the NFL policy. But trust me, this is no sports. This is school, the real thing. Beefing up security is like the real thing, but is it coming to the point where we have to put in metal detectors? I think it is. I don't think you need to put in a lot of metal detectors. I think you need to just put one. If you're going to buy a metal detector, you need to put it in the front door entrance. And again, in some states, teachers need to bring guns. And if you're asking a teacher to just go with a pencil or a pistol, their other option would be just to bring a pistol. Because somewhere inside, you're going to be sitting there going, oh my goodness. And it's like, oh my goodness, my son plays a game to where you just shoot people. So that is the reason why all these people are making these valid threats. And that's not great. Plus, if you're thinking about doing these threats, you need to think. When you choose the behavior, you choose the consequences. Because let me tell you something. If you're going to think about saying, oh, I'm going to go make threats and get everyone out of school because I want an extra day off. You can get out of school, but you're going to end up going to jail throughout the... You're going to be thinking about doing this, and if you do that, then you're going to end up with the consequences of going to jail. Now imagine breaking... Now think about this. Imagine you have a YouTube channel, you're thinking to yourself, maybe I should make a video about breaking the dress code for a whole week. See how that would go. And so you did. But we are only going to... I'm only going to show you a 6-minute video. This one is from Kylie Iris. This has almost 1 million views in 2 years for her last week of school. So she thought it'd be cool just to say, for my video, I'm just going to freaking violate the school's dress code for like a week. Look, I talked to you about this. You need to follow the school's dress code from your handbook. It doesn't matter if it's the first day, last day. It doesn't matter. Take a look.
Hey Iris, welcome to this messy place that I call my channel. Welcome to another episode of Kylie doing bad things and making bad choices.
Okay, let's just go over to the dress code. I'm going to mute this so that I can describe it to you. Now see, that's out of dress code because it's showing her belly button. Next one. And then this next one. Too short, exposing herself. Too much skin. And in this one, too short, too much skin, it's the same thing. This was on June 9th, and it almost had 1 million views. So again, don't be violating school dress code posted on YouTube. You get yourself in a lot of trouble, and the school can look at this and tell you to leave the video. You refuse, then you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. And what about breaking school uniforms? Well, AVMA Vibes broke the school uniform. And for a week, Kathy McKenzie did the same thing. Lee Sunbury. For a family dress code. Jade Ashley. The original from Sadie Amari. And this was a mix. Primer. People have to step forward and say to themselves, don't do this. You're setting a bad example for yourself. And if you have kids, you're also going to set a bad example. Stop it. It's not right for you. I'll be back in a moment. Next week's going to be a new special. Who killed John Benet Ramsey? It's almost going to be 25 years since the death of little John Benet Ramsey. We're going to take you each day, we're going to take you step by step into what happened during the time. The handwriting, the parents, the suspects, even the brother and especially in the news reports. What do details say? And will we ever find out who killed little John McNay? We're gonna start with Coming Break Saturday with the whole special Saturday through Wednesday. So look for that. Just look for the whole week special Saturday through Wednesday. That's all for this edition of Coming Break Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Coming Break Saturday night. Follow us here at YouTube. Have a safe night. Take care of yourself and each other. Good night.